Kamisha asks, based on, this is a fairly long question, so I'll try and get through it. Based on the adjustments that both industry and the agency have made specific to the use of technology to aid in the execution, subject participation, and data access this past year to make clinical trials possible, do you anticipate any long-term changes to how clinical trials are conducted? So I think she might be thinking not just 2021, but even more long-term than that. Craig, do you want to keep going and get us started on that one?
You know, the regulators and policymakers in the United States and around the world certainly reacted, and they reacted quickly. And we see in terms of the use of telemedicine in the United States, the impact that that brought when we removed the barriers around interstate licensing, improved the reimbursement, and lowered some of the requirements around privacy, security for the tools that were being used. Certainly some of those should remain, and some of those should get pulled back. We want to make sure we're using robust software for these interactions where we can have the highest level of confidence around privacy. As it relates to the conduct of studies, regulatory authorities around the world published guidelines, guidance documents, FAQs around changes that they were encouraging. And the FDA in particular deserves a round of applause for keeping that fresh and dynamic and for updating it week after week. But I would caution people to read that and think that this opened a set of opportunities that weren't available to them before. Most of what the FDA is writing about in that in those recommendations for industry and in the FAQs is simply to adopt technologies and approaches that were already available. They talk about risk-based monitoring. They talk about remote central monitoring. They talk about the use of remote decentralized location shifting approaches, drug distribution to the home. But nowhere do they lower the bar. They simply encourage research sponsors, investigators, and others to engage with them, share the approach they want to take, and move forward in a way that's appropriate for having a confidence in data integrity and no balls dropped when it comes to patient safety.
And Debbie, would you like to take a shot at that one as well?
I completely agree with Craig. The reality is that, you know, these have been options available to industry since 2013, 2014, 2016, when guidance documents came out around e-consent, e-source, et cetera. I think with respect to the question, I would agree that I believe telehealth is probably something that well succeeds, you know, goes well past 2021. I also think, again, going back to that democratizing of clinical trials, I think patients who are participating in trials today are getting some freedom and a break from having to go to the brick and mortar. And what I think we will see in the future in 2021 and beyond is the ability to offer that flexibility to patients. Go where they are. Is that a retail pharmacy? Is that a community mental health center? Is that a Walmart? Who knows? But I think that past 2021, we have to again be thinking about how do we make it as easy for patients, while at the same time, going back to what Craig referenced around data integrity, ensuring that data integrity. And of course, ultimately, the ground rule is privacy. But we've got to put those things together for patients.
And Michelle, I'm going to jump to you because that same registrant also asked, what are virtual and digital clinical trial companies doing to more permanently affect transition towards the use of technology in trials? Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, it comes back to opening that conversation with the FDA, when you're designing your trial. I think additionally, it comes down to a basis of evidence that we need to show, what is safe and what is effective. So, one of the big initiatives that we have as a company is our own internal research effort around digital biomarkers and around remote endpoints, so that, when you look back at, say, ECOA and moving that from, paper to digital, the whole kind of ECOA emergence, it was really about generating the evidence that the industry needed to move that form factor forward. So, we have a number of initiatives across therapeutic areas that are looking at both remote measures of current instruments as well as digital biomarkers to advance the diagnosis and measurement of disease progression in specific therapeutic areas, with the goal of, showing that these are effective and comparing them to the gold standard in terms of, the core outcomes and endpoints. And I think, with that, Ed, that's, I think that's going to really drive important progress over the long term.